cameras were rolling, their red lights glaring. He was just settling into his seat, flashing a clueless smile at the waiter. Perfect. The moment she walked in, the instant realization dawned on his face. Boom, we've got him. Did they really think he'd ditch a deaf woman? That was pretty low even for exposing a fraud. But that was precisely the point. Saint Hunter wouldn't be able to keep up his carefully constructed act when faced with genuine inconvenience. They'd finally get to see the real Hunter Lawson. 3 colleagues, 1 cleverly concealed camera, and a blind date meticulously orchestrated to expose their company's golden boy as a complete phony. Hunter Lawson had built his entire career on the facade of inclusion, feigned caring, and portraying himself as the ultimate good guy in a dog-eat-dog industry. They were convinced it was all an act, a carefully crafted performance. They believed they were setting the perfect trap, a foolproof plan. Little did they know, they were about to capture something entirely unexpected, something that would irrevocably alter everything, just not in the way they had so meticulously planned. Before we continue this narrative, please take a moment to let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We are always thrilled to witness the global reach of our stories. He's late, Derek muttered, his thumb hovering nervously over the record button, his anticipation palpable. His 2 cohorts, Greg and Tim, leaned in closer, their eyes glued to the entrance, their excitement barely contained. Relax, Greg whispered, trying to sound reassuring. He'll show. Hunter Lawson never breaks a promise. That's his whole shtick. Remember? Mr. Perfect, Mr. Nice Guy. Tim snorted derisively. Yeah, well, let's see just how nice he is when he realizes what we've set him up with. Derek's jaw tightened, his expression hardening. A deaf woman, we told him blonde, 30s, named Megan, conveniently leaving out one tiny, crucial detail. Think he'll bolt immediately? Tim asked, subtly adjusting the angle of his phone, ensuring he captured every incriminating detail. Doesn't matter when, Derek said coldly, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. What matters is we catch it. The exact moment he realizes, the look of disgust on his face, the flimsy excuse he concocts. Whatever it is, we post it anonymously to the career forum, and boom, the CFO sees the real Hunter Lawson. There's no way he promotes someone capable of such callousness. Greg shifted uncomfortably in his seat, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. You really think he'll be that harsh? Everyone has a breaking point. Tonight, Derek declared, a sinister gleam in his eyes. We find his. Before we delve further into this unfolding drama, please let us know where in the world you're watching from. We're always fascinated by the widespread reach of our storytelling. At 6:55 p.m., Hunter Lawson pushed through the heavy restaurant doors, the scent of garlic and simmering sauces filling his nostrils. His heart hammered against his ribs with a frantic energy that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. For years, it had been 4 long years since he'd done anything even remotely resembling this. The hostess greeted him with a practiced, professional smile. Good evening. Do you have a reservation? Yes, under Lawson. I'm meeting someone. Actually, a blind date. Her name's Megan. Blonde. Around 30. Of course, right this way. She led him through the bustling restaurant to a secluded table near the window, where the soft, amber glow of the evening lights spilled invitingly across the crisp white tablecloths. Hunter sat down, his hands restless, fidgeting with the silverware. He caught his reflection in the window, navy shirt, clean jeans, the face of a man who'd forgotten how to navigate this awkward dance. June's voice echoed in his memory from earlier that evening. Daddy, you look handsome. Are you going to marry her? He'd laughed, kissing her curly brown hair. It's just one date, bug. Don't get ahead of yourself. But now, sitting there, his daughter's hopeful words felt like a lead weight on his chest. What was he doing? He'd locked this part of himself away for a reason. A good reason. June needed stability, a consistent routine, not the unpredictable whirlwind of his past. The door opened again, a gust of cool evening air swirling into the room. Hunter's breath hitched in his throat, Megan Smith stepped into the Riverside Grill at precisely 7:02 p.m. Her long blonde hair caught the light in a way that made her seem almost ethereal, a vision in the warm, dimly lit space. She wore a simple, understated dress that somehow managed to look both effortlessly elegant and utterly approachable. Her eyes scanned the restaurant with a practiced, almost wary caution, the unmistakable gaze of someone who'd learned to meticulously assess situations before fully committing to them. The hostess approached her, engaging in a brief conversation. Megan's gaze tracked the woman's lips with an intense focus, a concentrated effort. Then she nodded, responding in a voice that possessed a unique quality, clear and articulate, yet subtly modulated, betraying the fact that she couldn't hear her own volume. From their strategically chosen corner position, Derek punched the record button on his phone, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Here we go," he whispered, barely audible above the murmur of the restaurant. Hunter stood as Megan approached his table, his instincts firing on all cylinders at once. The way her eyes had followed the hostess's lips, the slight hesitation in her response, the careful, deliberate way she navigated the crowded space, it all clicked into place. "Megan," he said, extending his hand, offering a warm smile. "I'm Hunter." She smiled back, a genuine, radiant smile that transformed her face, and took his hand. "It's so nice to meet you," she said. Her eyes focused intently on his mouth as he spoke, trying to decipher his words. In that split second, the full weight of the situation crashed over Hunter like a tidal wave. She was deaf. His colleagues had knowingly set him up on a blind date with a deaf woman, deliberately omitting that crucial detail. The realization should have ignited a surge of anger, a righteous fury at their blatant manipulation. And a part of him was indeed furious. But a larger, more profound part of him felt something entirely different, a feeling that resonated deep within him, reaching back through the corridors of memory to his mother's hands gracefully moving through the air, teaching him a language before he could fully articulate his own. From the corner booth, Derek leaned forward, a sinister smile curling at the edges of his mouth. His phone was already recording, held steady in his hand as he waited, ravenous for the moment Hunter would crack, the instant the carefully constructed mask would finally slip away. Of course, he'd reject her cruelly, publicly humiliating her. He'd lash out, storm off, leaving her sitting there, exposed and vulnerable. And when he did, they'd have the irrefutable proof they'd been so desperately seeking. Instead, Hunter smiled, a soft, steady, unwavering smile that radiated genuine warmth. He stepped forward, pulling out Megan's chair with a gentle courtesy that made her pause, her eyes widening slightly in surprise. And then, as she sat, he lifted his hands. His fingers moved with effortless grace, fluid and expressive, fluent and warm, each sign slicing through the ambient noise of the restaurant like an unexpected miracle, a gesture Megan never anticipated. "It's wonderful to meet you," he signed, his eyes conveying a sincerity that resonated deep within her. "Thank you for being here." The entire restaurant seemed to freeze, the casual chatter fading into a hushed silence. And in the corner booth, Derek's phone nearly slipped from his suddenly clammy grip. "Wait, what is he doing?" Greg breathed, leaning forward so abruptly he almost knocked over his water glass. Are those sign language?" Derek finished, his voice hollow, laced with disbelief. "He knows sign language." Megan's entire body went still, her muscles tensing. Her eyes, those careful, guarded eyes that had learned to anticipate disappointment, widened impossibly. Her mouth formed a perfect O of absolute shock, her lips parted slightly. For 3 full seconds, she simply stared at his hands, transfixed, then at his face, then back at his hands, as if she couldn't quite reconcile what she was seeing with the reality she knew. Her own hands flew up, trembling slightly. "You know sign language?" "My mother was deaf," Hunter signed back, settling into his chair with an ease that spoke volumes about his years of practice. "It's still my first language, honestly." Megan's hands dropped to the table, her movements slow and deliberate. She pressed them flat against the white tablecloth, as if she needed to ground herself, to tether herself to reality. When she looked up at him again, her eyes were glistening with unshed tears, a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming relief swirling within their depths. "I wasn't expecting," she signed, then stopped, her voice catching in her throat. She took a deep breath, composing herself before starting again. "Nobody ever?" Another pause, a silent question hanging in the air between them. "You're really fluent?" 35 years of practice. Hunter signed with a gentle smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "My mom made sure of it. She used to say, if you're going to live in her world, you needed to speak her language properly." In the corner booth, the three men sat frozen in stunned silence, their meticulously constructed plan crumbling around them in real time, disintegrating before their very eyes. "This can't be happening," Derek muttered, his knuckles white as he gripped his phone. He can't. "Maybe it's an act," Tim whispered desperately, clinging to the last vestiges of their failing scheme. "Maybe he learned a few signs to impress her, and he'll mess up soon. It's only a matter of time." "Look at him," Greg interrupted, his voice strangely subdued. "That's not just a few signs. That's fluent. He's actually having a conversation." They watched, mesmerized, as Hunter's hands moved with fluid grace, his expressions mirroring the nuances of their silent exchange. They noticed Megan's shoulders gradually relaxing, the tension melting away as her guarded expression softened into something open and genuine. They watched her laugh, a real, unguarded laugh that made several nearby diners turn and smile, drawn in by the infectious joy of the moment. "He's supposed to be making excuses right now," Derek said, his voice rising slightly with panic and confusion. "He's supposed to look uncomfortable, to check his watch, to—" "He looks happy," Greg said quietly, his voice barely a whisper, and he did. Hunter Lawson leaned forward with genuine interest, his entire face animated as his hands moved through the signs. There was nothing forced about it, nothing performative, nothing artificial. He wasn't simply tolerating the situation or putting on a show for appearances. He was connecting, actually, genuinely connecting with another human being. "Keep recording," Derek ordered, though his voice had lost its earlier conviction, the confident certainty replaced by a growing sense of unease. "Maybe he's just—" Just wait," Greg insisted, his eyes fixed on the couple. "Everyone cracks eventually. Just give it time." But even as he said it, watching Hunter laugh at something Megan signed, watching the two of them fall into an easy, comfortable conversation like old friends reconnecting after years apart, Derek felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest, a nagging feeling he couldn't quite suppress. It looked a lot like doubt. The conversation that unfolded over the next 20 minutes was unlike anything Megan had experienced in 3 long years of disastrous blind dates. Hunter didn't speak slowly or exaggerate his enunciation. He didn't treat her like she was fragile or simple-minded. He just talked to her, listened to her, treated her like she was a person he genuinely wanted to know, a person whose thoughts and opinions mattered. "So, you're a freelance writer?" Hunter signed, leaning forward with real interest, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "What kind of writing do you do?" "Content marketing, mostly." Megan signed back, her shoulders gradually relaxing, the tension easing from her face. "Technical documentation, website copy, the occasional blog post. It's not exactly creative writing, but it pays well, and I can work from anywhere in the world." "That's incredible," Hunter signed, his expression filled with admiration. "Building your own business like that takes serious discipline and a lot of grit." Megan's hands moved with more confidence now, her signs becoming more fluid and expressive. "What about you? What do you do?" "I'm a therapist at a downtown firm," he signed. "Workplace counseling, conflict resolution, that kind of thing. I've been there about a year." "Do you like it?" Hunter paused, considering the question carefully before responding. "I do, though lately it's been a little complicated. Office politics. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't—" Megan signed with a playful expression, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "One of the perks of working from home. My biggest office politics issue is whether the cat gets to sit on my keyboard." Hunter laughed, A real, genuine laugh that made several nearby diners glance over with smiles. Okay, you win. That sounds infinitely better than my current situation. A server approached to take their order. Hunter smoothly transitioned to speaking aloud for the server, reciting their choices with ease, while simultaneously signing for Megan, translating the specials without her having to ask. It was such a natural, considerate gesture, a seamless blend of accommodation and respect, that Megan felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been tightly closed off for a very long time. You have a daughter, Megan signed after their food arrived, her expression thoughtful, her eyes filled with a gentle curiosity. Most men don't mention their kids on first dates until at least date 3. Hunter's face softened in a way that transformed his entire appearance, his features becoming even more appealing. Her name's June. She's 7, obsessed with volcanoes, and currently convinced that our cat is secretly plotting world domination. She sounds amazing. She is, Hunter signed, his hands moving with tenderness. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. And honestly, if someone can't handle that I come as a package deal, it's better to know now rather than later. June's not a secret or a complication. She's my whole world. Megan set down her fork, her full attention focused on him. Your wife? She signed carefully, her brow furrowed slightly. The question hung in the air between them, an unspoken weight that suddenly permeated the atmosphere. Hunter's hands faltered for just a moment, the first time all evening he'd hesitated. When he continued, his signs were slower, more deliberate, heavy with the weight of old grief. She passed away 4 years ago. He signed, his gaze distant, lost in the memories. June was 3. It was a heart condition nobody knew about, not even her. One day, Sophia was planning June's birthday party, and 3 days later, he stopped, swallowed hard, and started again. I've spent 4 years learning how to be both parents. Learning to braid hair from YouTube tutorials. Learning that princess movies can actually be pretty good if you watch them 60 times. He attempted a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes, the sadness lingering in their depths. I locked myself away from anything relationship-related after that, convinced it was the best thing to do. I told myself June needed stability, routine, just her and me. This is actually the first date I've been on since. Wow, Megan signed, blinking away a few tears. My daughter kept asking why I never did anything fun anymore, and I realized I didn't have a good answer. So here I am. Megan reached across the table, her hand hovering, not quite touching his, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her intention, the unspoken empathy. Her eyes held such gentle understanding, a depth of compassion that resonated deep within him. I'm so sorry, she signed, her voice laced with genuine sympathy. That must have been incredibly hard. It still is. I imagine it was, and is. Hunter looked down at their almost touching hands, a silent connection forming between them. But June's taught me something important. You can't hide from life forever just because you're scared of losing again. At some point, you have to choose to live, not just survive. Is that what tonight is? Megan signed, a playful challenge dancing in her expression, a spark of hope flickering in her eyes. Choosing to live? Surprisingly, yes. Hunter signed back, his smile genuine now, the weight on his shoulders seeming to lighten. You're much better company than my usual Friday night dates with a 7-year-old, and whatever animated movie is her current obsession. Megan laughed, a sound that made nearby diners turn and smile, a sound that was unguarded, pure, and real. From his surveillance position, Derek's colleagues were growing increasingly restless, their initial excitement replaced by a gnawing sense of disappointment. This is a complete bust, Greg muttered, his voice laced with frustration. He's actually enjoying himself. Look at him. Maybe he's just being polite, Tim offered weakly, clinging to the hope that their plan could still be salvaged, waiting for the opportune moment to bail, to cut their losses and retreat. But even as he said it, none of them truly believed it. They were witnessing something they hadn't anticipated, something they hadn't accounted for in their carefully constructed scheme. Genuine connection, real conversation, a man treating a woman with respect and genuine interest, not as a charity case or a cruel punchline, but as an equal, a person worthy of his time and attention. "Keep recording," Derek said, though doubt had crept into his voice like water seeping through cracks, eroding the foundation of their confidence. By the time dessert arrived, Hunter and Megan had discovered a dozen shared interests, unexpected commonalities that drew them closer. Both loved hiking, but were terrible at identifying plants, often mistaking poisonous ivy for harmless foliage. Both thought pineapple on pizza was a crime against humanity, a culinary abomination that should be banished from existence. Both had read the same obscure fantasy series in their youth and had passionate, fiercely held opinions about the ending, debating the merits of the author's choices with the fervor of seasoned scholars. "Tell me about your mother," Megan signed, her hands moving with careful curiosity, her eyes filled with a gentle inquisitiveness. "What was she like?" Hunter's expression grew tender, his gaze distant, lost in the mists of memory. "Fierce, that's the word that always comes to mind. She refused to let anyone make her feel less than because she couldn't hear. She worked as a teacher at a school for deaf children, and she was absolutely beloved by her students. Former students would come back years later just to visit her, to share their accomplishments and seek her advice. She sounds wonderful." Hunter signed, his voice filled with warmth and affection. "She taught me that disability isn't weakness or limitation. It's just a different way of experiencing the world, a different perspective. She also made the best chocolate chip cookies in existence. I could win any argument with her just by baking a batch." Megan's hands moved slowly, deliberately, her expression filled with a deep appreciation. "She would have been proud of you," she signed, her eyes conveying a sincerity that touched him deeply. "The way you signed tonight, the respect and fluency in it, that came from her." "I hope so." Hunter paused, his gaze meeting hers. Then his hands moved with careful deliberation, a sense of purpose underlying each gesture. "Megan, I need to tell you something. I didn't know why my colleagues were so eager to set up this date, but about halfway through dinner, I noticed them." He gestured subtly toward the corner booth, his expression hardening. "3 guys from my office, and they've been recording us." Megan's hands stilled, her movements ceasing abruptly. Her face flickered through a kaleidoscope of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, hurt, dawning understanding. Then something harder, something colder, settled over her features. Anger. "Recording us?" She signed sharply, her hands cutting through the air with barely contained fury. "I think this was meant to be some kind of test." Hunter signed, his jaw tight, his muscles tense. "There's a promotion at stake at the office. They wanted to see if I'd—" He couldn't quite bring himself to finish the thought, the implications too ugly to voice aloud. "If I'd be decent to the disabled girl," Megan signed, her hands cutting through the air with barely contained fury, her eyes blazing with indignation. "Yes." For a long moment, Megan didn't sign anything. She just looked at Hunter, her eyes searching his face, scrutinizing his expression, searching for something. Truth, maybe, or proof that he was different from every other disappointment she'd encountered. "I've been on 17 blind dates in the past 3 years. She finally signed, her voice heavy with weariness, each movement weighted with exhausted resignation. 17 times I've watched men's faces change when they realize I'm deaf. Some leave immediately, at least they're honest about it. Some stay out of pity, which is infinitely worse. Some treat me like I'm fragile or simple-minded, speaking loudly and slowly like I'm a child, as if my deafness somehow diminished my intelligence." Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the pain she had so carefully concealed. "You're the first one who just treated me, like I'm just a person you wanted to know, someone whose company you enjoyed. Not a disability, not a charity case, not a test to be passed." She looked toward the corner booth, her gaze lingering on the 3 shadowy figures before returning to Hunter. "So what now? Was this real, or was I just part of their pathetic little game?" Hunter's hands moved with absolute conviction, his eyes locking onto hers, conveying the depth of his sincerity. "Megan, I don't care what they intended. I don't care that they set this up to catch me being cruel, to sabotage my career, to prove my character is fake. None of that matters. What does matter is this us, this conversation, this connection we've found. It's been the most real thing I've experienced in 4 years. He waited until her eyes met his fully, ensuring she understood the gravity of his words. You're funny, brilliant, talented, and you've reminded me that there's more to life than just surviving, that there's still joy to be found even after the hardest of losses. He took a breath, steeling his resolve. If you'll let me, I'd like to see you again. Not because of some setup or test, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I genuinely want to know you better. Because when you laugh, it makes everyone around you smile, and the world needs more of that kind of joy. Megan signed, a tentative hope flickering in her expression, a fragile light breaking through the darkness. Because tonight has been special. Exactly. The restaurant had grown quieter around them, other diners filtering out into the night, their conversations fading into the background. From their corner, Derek and his colleagues had long since stopped recording, the weight of what they'd done settling over them like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. Megan's hands moved slowly, deliberately, each sign carrying the weight of 3 years of disappointment and 1 evening of unexpected hope, a fragile promise of something better. I'd like that, too, she signed, her eyes shining with a newfound vulnerability. The weekend that followed moved with the strange, suspended quality of a dream, a fleeting moment of happiness that might dissolve if examined too closely, if subjected to the harsh light of reality. Saturday morning, Hunter made pancakes while June sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and chattering excitedly about the science project she wanted to do on volcanoes, her enthusiasm contagious. Bug, I need to tell you something, Hunter said, sliding a pancake onto her plate, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. June looked up, her curly brown hair wild from sleep, her eyes bright with curiosity. What is it, Daddy? Remember how I went on that date last night? The one where you looked all fancy and nervous? Hunter smiled despite himself, remembering his own anxieties. Yeah, that one. Well, I met someone really special. Ooh-hoo. Her name is Megan, and I'm going to see her again tomorrow. She might even come over here, actually. June's eyes went impossibly wide, her voice filled with anticipation. To our house? Is she nice? Does she like volcanoes? Can I meet her? Yes, she's incredibly nice. Yes, she probably likes volcanoes, I'll have to confirm. And definitely you can meet her. He paused, knowing the most important part was yet to come. But there's something else you should know, something that makes Megan extra special. Megan is deaf, which means she can't hear. June's fork paused halfway to her mouth, her expression thoughtful. Like in that video you showed me about Grandma? Something warm bloomed in Hunter's chest, a surge of pride and love for his daughter. Exactly like that. I thought maybe if you wanted, we could practice some signs together before she comes over so you can say hello. Yes, June exclaimed, clapping her hands with excitement. Can I learn how to say volcanoes are awesome? We'll work on it, Hunter promised, his heart swelling with joy. Saturday afternoon arrived with the particular anxiety that accompanies introducing 2 separate parts of your life and hoping desperately that they'll somehow fit together, forming a cohesive whole. Hunter had cleaned the house 3 times, obsessively straightening every cushion and dusting every surface. June had changed outfits twice, agonizing over the perfect ensemble before finally settling on her favorite purple shirt with sparkly stars, deeming it sufficiently festive. The cat had been bribed with treats to behave, promised a lifetime supply of tuna if he managed to refrain from his usual antics. Everything was as ready as it could possibly be. When the doorbell rang at 2 p.m. sharp, June bolted for the door with the speed of a small, excited missile, her eagerness barely contained. Junie, slow down, Hunter called after her, a mixture of amusement and exasperation in his voice. But she was already yanking the door open, her small hands fumbling with the handle. Megan stood on the porch, radiating warmth and friendliness, holding a small bag in her hand. She was wearing jeans and a soft yellow sweater that made her look approachable and comforting, like sunshine on a cloudy day. When she saw June, her face lit up with genuine delight, her eyes crinkling at the corners. June stared up at her for a moment, her eyes wide with curiosity, then carefully raised her hands in the signs Hunter had taught her, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hello. Nice to meet you." The signs were clumsy, her small hands uncertain, but Megan's eyes immediately filled with tears, a rush of emotion overwhelming her. She knelt down to June's level, meeting her gaze, her hands moving slowly, deliberately, ensuring the little girl could understand. "Hi, June. Your dad has told me so much about you. I heard you're an expert on volcanoes." June looked back at Hunter, seeking confirmation, her eyes questioning. Hunter quickly signed the translation, offering an encouraging smile. Her face exploded into the biggest smile he had ever seen, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I am," she practically shouted, then remembered herself and signed, "Yes," her small hands moving with enthusiasm. "Do you want to see my books? I have so many books about volcanoes." What followed was 2 hours of pure, unexpected joy, a delightful afternoon filled with laughter, connection, and shared passions. June dragged Megan to her room, proudly displaying every volcano book she owned, every rock collection she'd meticulously assembled, every drawing she'd painstakingly created. Megan examined each one with genuine interest, asking questions through sign that Hunter translated, engaging with June's 7-year-old passion as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world, her enthusiasm infectious. They moved to the kitchen for cookies and milk, a celebratory treat for their new friendship. June insisted on learning more signs, turning it into a game, her determination unwavering. She'd point at objects around the house, and Megan would show her the corresponding sign, patiently correcting her mistakes and praising her successes. "Cookie," Megan would sign, demonstrating the correct hand movements. "Cookie," June would sign back, giggling with delight as she mastered the new word. "Table," "table," she'd sign next, her small hands moving with increasing confidence, her pronunciation improving with each attempt. When June accidentally signed bathroom instead of butterfly, misremembering the hand gestures, all three of them dissolved into laughter, a joyous sound that filled the kitchen, the kind of unadulterated laughter that comes from pure happiness, untouched by cynicism or fear. At one point, June announced that she needed to use the actual bathroom, excusing herself with the solemnity of a small child on an important mission. The moment she left, Megan turned to Hunter, her hands moving rapidly, her expression filled with emotion. "She's incredible," she signed, her eyes shining with admiration. "You've done such a beautiful job with her. She's bright, articulate, and so full of joy. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together," Hunter confessed, his voice laced with vulnerability. "Like I'm one forgotten permission slip away from being a complete disaster as a parent." "You're not," Megan signed firmly, her hands conveying her conviction. "She's confident, curious, kind, and so full of love. That doesn't happen by accident. That comes from you. You're doing an amazing job." Hunter's throat tightened, a wave of emotion washing over him. He hadn't realized how badly he needed to hear that, how much he craved that validation. Just then, June burst back into the kitchen, her hands moving in an enthusiastic but completely incorrect sign that was supposed to mean friend, but actually meant something closer to cheese. A comical mistake that sent them both into fits of giggles. Megan's eyes met Hunter's, both of them fighting to suppress their laughter, their shared amusement creating a bond between them. In that moment, something shifted, something settled into place, something that felt less like the beginning of something new and more like pieces that had always belonged together finally finding their way home, like long-lost puzzle pieces clicking into perfect alignment. Monday morning arrived with the particular dread of unfinished business, the nagging weight of loose ends that needed to be tied up. Hunter walked into the office to find Derek and his 2 colleagues huddled nervously by the coffee machine, their body language screaming discomfort, their expressions sheepish. When they saw him, all 3 physically flinched, recoiling as if they expected him to explode. For a long moment, nobody spoke, the silence hanging heavy in the air. Finally, Derek cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Hunter, we need to talk." "I know what you did," Hunter said quietly, his voice carrying across the break room, cutting through the awkward silence like a knife. The confession came tumbling out of Derek like water through a broken dam, a torrent of guilt and remorse. He explained everything. The petty office politics, the promotion rumors, the insider information, the simmering resentment that he, a relative newcomer of barely 12 months, was being seriously considered for the coveted position of head therapist over people who'd been there for years toiling in the trenches. He confessed to the bet, the elaborate plan to record his reaction to being set up with a disabled woman, the intention to post the incriminating video anonymously to the career forum in a desperate attempt to destroy his reputation before the CFO could make the promotion official. "We thought," Derek's voice cracked with emotion, his eyes filled with shame. "We thought you were faking the kindness, the unwavering work ethic, all of it. We thought it was all an act, a calculated performance to make yourself look good. So, you decided to test me?" Hunter said flatly, his expression unreadable, his voice devoid of emotion. "Yes," Greg interjected, unable to meet his eyes, his voice barely a whisper. "And we were wrong about everything. We watched that entire date, Hunter. We watched you treat her with respect and genuine interest, watched you connect with her like a decent human being, and we realized we'd become people we're not proud of. People we don't even recognize anymore." Tim stepped forward, his face etched with remorse. "We went to the CFO this morning before we came to you, told him everything we did, showed him the video, then deleted it. He's handling our disciplinary actions, but we wanted to apologize to you directly, face to face." Derek's voice was raw with emotion, his eyes filled with genuine contrition. "What we did was cruel, not only to you but especially to Megan. Using someone's disability as a punchline, as bait for a disgusting game. There's no excuse for that. We were completely out of line." Hunter was silent for a long moment, his hands clenched at his sides, his knuckles white. The hurt and betrayal were palpable, radiating from him in waves. When he finally spoke, his voice was controlled, but laced with a quiet sadness that resonated deep within the room. "You know what the saddest part is?" he said softly, his gaze sweeping over their faces. "If you'd just talked to me, gotten to know me as a person, none of this would have been necessary. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I incinerate dinner at least 3 times a week. And despite all my efforts, June's hair always seems to defy gravity in the school photos." He met each of their gazes in turn, a weary understanding in his eyes. "But this isn't an act. I simply don't possess the stamina for such theatrics. All I'm trying to do is perform my job to the best of my ability and conduct myself with basic decency. That shouldn't be perceived as a threat." "It's not," Derek admitted softly, his voice tinged with regret. "We manufactured that threat out of our own insecurities and pent-up resentments. That's on us entirely, not you." Hunter received Hunter's apology with a slow nod. "I appreciate you stepping forward. It doesn't excuse the past, but it's a start. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have real work to attend to." He refilled his mug and walked away, leaving the 3 men to grapple with the consequences of their actions. 2 weeks later, the long-awaited promotion arrived. Head therapist, a substantial pay increase, expanded responsibilities, and an actual office with a window overlooking the city. But what truly resonated with Hunter was the text message awaiting him when he emerged from the CFO's office. "Congratulations. June and I are so incredibly proud of you. Dinner tonight to celebrate? I'll bring the non-pineapple pizza. Megan." A genuine smile graced Hunter's face, his thumb hovering over the reply button. For years prior, he'd resigned himself to a life of quiet desperation, merely existing as June's dad, going through the motions, surviving but not truly embracing life. How wrong he'd been. He swiftly typed back, "It's a date. See you at 6. 6 months later, the Riverside Grill had become their place. Hunter and Megan sat at the same table where their paths had first crossed. June nestled snugly between them, her small hands articulating the sign for family with growing confidence. "Again," June demanded, her curls bouncing with youthful energy. I want to get it perfect. With unwavering patience, Megan gently guided her hands through the movements, her face radiating warmth and affection. Hunter watched them, his heart overflowing with a love so profound it was almost painful. But this time, the ache was a good one. It was the ache of healing, of something broken being lovingly pieced back together, forming a new, more beautiful shape. I have something to tell you, Megan signed to Hunter, taking advantage of June's temporary distraction with her chocolate cake. Good news, but also scary news. Hunter signed back, his curiosity piqued. Both. Huh? Megan's hands moved deliberately, betraying her nervousness. I landed a major new client. 6-month contract, really good money. They want me to lease an office space downtown for in-person meetings. Megan, that's incredible, Hunter exclaimed, his voice brimming with pride. It's terrifying, she signed honestly. I've been remote for so long. Feel safe, controlled, but I think I'm ready to put myself out there more, to be visible, to stop hiding. Hunter understood the unspoken truth behind her words. 6 months ago, she'd been on what she'd considered her last blind date, resigned to a life of isolation. Now she was actively choosing risk, choosing life. I'm so proud of you, he signed, his eyes conveying the depth of his admiration. And if you need someone to help move office furniture or bring coffee during long workdays, I happen to know a guy. Oh, really? She teased, a playful glint in her eyes. Is he single? Definitely not, Hunter signed, grinning. He's very happily taken by an incredible woman who is teaching his daughter sign language, who makes June laugh until she can't breathe, and who showed him that second chances at happiness are undeniably real. June, oblivious to their exchange, looked up from her dessert, chocolate smeared adorably across her face, and signed with exaggerated care. Are you guys being mushy again? Both adults erupted in laughter, the kind of unrestrained joy that springs from the deepest recesses of the soul. Megan signed back, very mushy. Is that okay? June pretended to deliberate, then signed, I guess it's okay, but only because you're really nice, and you don't like pineapple on pizza either. She paused for emphasis. That's very important. As they exited the restaurant that evening, Hunter carried June on his shoulders while Megan walked beside them, her hand finding his. They were a striking tableau. The single father who'd learned to navigate parenthood alone. The daughter who'd lost her mother but discovered new love. And the woman who'd almost given up on happiness before finding connection in the most unexpected of places. Derek, accompanied by his own family, passed them on the street, heading into the restaurant. He hesitated, met Hunter's gaze, and offered a subtle nod, a gesture of respect and acknowledgement. Hunter reciprocated. Some wounds healed with time, some relationships were rebuilt stronger than before, and some mistakes became the very foundation for growth. Later that night, after June was sound asleep and Megan had returned to her apartment, Hunter lingered in his daughter's doorway, watching her slumber peacefully. She clutched the stuffed volcano Megan had gifted her, her face serene in the soft glow of her night light. 1 year and 3 months after that pivotal first date, Hunter drove Megan and June back to the Riverside Grill. Why are we getting so dressed up? June inquired for the 3rd time, smoothing down her navy blue dress with meticulous care. It's just dinner. It's a special dinner, Hunter replied, adjusting his tie in the rearview mirror. His hands trembled slightly, fueled by the same nervous energy he'd experienced that first night, but amplified 100-fold. Tucked securely in his jacket pocket, a small velvet box pressed against his ribs with every breath. They were seated at their table, the very spot where everything had begun. June chattered excitedly about her impending science fair project while Megan listened attentively, responding with signs that elicited joyful giggles from June. Midway through dinner, Hunter's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then signed to Megan, June, can you come here for a second? June hopped over and Hunter whispered something in her ear. Her eyes widened in surprise and delight, and she nodded enthusiastically. Megan. June signed carefully, her small hands moving with the precision honed over months of practice. Can I ask you something important? Megan's brow furrowed with curiosity. Of course, sweetie. June took a deep breath, then signed. Would you like to be part of our family? Like officially? Forever? Megan's hands froze in mid-sign. Her eyes darted to Hunter, who had risen and moved to stand beside the table. He was slowly kneeling, extracting a small velvet box from his pocket. The entire restaurant seemed to collectively hold its breath. Hunter's hands trembled with emotion as he signed. Megan Smith, you walked into my life when I'd convinced myself I was done living. You saw me, really saw me, and chose to stay. You've taught June that love doesn't have limits. You've shown me that broken things can heal into something even more beautiful. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring that caught the soft light. I'm not asking you to complete us, because we're not incomplete. But I am asking you to choose us every day, the way you've been choosing us for over a year. Will you marry me? Megan's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, she was speechless, unable to sign, only capable of staring at the man kneeling before her and the little girl bouncing excitedly beside him. Then, finally, her hands moved, shaking but resolute. Yes, yes, yes. I'll marry you. The restaurant erupted in thunderous applause. June launched herself at both of them, creating a tangle of arms, laughter, and joyful tears. Hunter slipped the ring onto Megan's finger, then pulled both his girls close, his heart so full he felt it might burst. 3 months later, Megan stood in a bridal boutique, surrounded by soft white fabric and the warm chatter of the shop owner. She'd already tried on 4 dresses, but this one, a simple A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves, felt undeniably right. She stood before the 3-way mirror, turning slowly, admiring the way the fabric moved. Her phone buzzed in her purse. The shop owner retrieved it for her, smiling. A text from Hunter. Megan's heart skipped a beat as she read. June wants to know if your dress has sparkles. She's very concerned about the sparkle situation. Also, I miss you. Also, I love you. Also, 3 more weeks feels like forever. Also, did I mention I love you? Megan quickly typed back. Tell June there are sparkles. Sort of. Lace counts, right? Miss you too. Love you more. 3 weeks will fly by. Mention it again. The response came almost immediately. I love you. I love you. I love you. See you at home in an hour. As Megan walked through the door of Hunter's house. Their house now, really, since she'd moved in 2 months ago. She was immediately ambushed by June. Did you get a dress? Is it pretty? Does it have sparkles? Can I see pictures? No pictures. Megan signed with mock sternness. Your dad can't see it until the wedding. It's bad luck. But I can see it, right? Of course you can. You're my maid of honor. June's face lit up as if she'd received the greatest gift imaginable. Hunter emerged from the kitchen, still wearing his work shirt, but with his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. He crossed the room and kissed Megan softly, his hand cupping her face with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. Good day? He signed. Perfect day. She signed back. Found the dress. Yeah. Can't wait to see you in it? He replied, his eyes filled with such love, such unwavering certainty, that Megan felt tears prick her eyes for the second time that day. Movie night, June announced, already piling blankets and pillows onto the couch. We're watching the volcano documentary I picked. Hunter and Megan exchanged amused glances. A documentary on volcanoes wasn't exactly Megan's idea of relaxing Friday night entertainment, but witnessing June's unbridled enthusiasm made everything worthwhile. They settled onto the couch, June wedged securely between them. The cat sprawled across all their laps, blankets tangled around their legs. The documentary played on the TV, but none of them were really watching. June occasionally signed excited comments about lava flows. Hunter's arm stretched across the back of the couch, his fingers lightly brushing against Megan's shoulder. Megan's hand rested on June's curly hair, absently playing with its soft texture. This, Megan thought, this ordinary, beautiful, perfect moment. A year ago, she'd been on what she'd believed to be her last blind date, resigned to a life of loneliness, convinced that no one would ever see past her disability to the person she truly was. Now she was here, in a home filled with laughter and volcano documentaries, and a man who'd learned sign language from his mother and taught it to his daughter. A man who'd looked at her on that first night and seen not a disability or a test, but simply, her. "What are you thinking about?" Hunter signed during a quiet moment when June was engrossed in the TV. "How lucky I am." Megan signed back, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "I'm the lucky one," Hunter countered, his eyes filled with genuine emotion. "We're all lucky," June signed without looking away from the screen, eliciting laughter from both adults. The cat purred contentedly. The documentary droned on about pyroclastic flows. June's breathing gradually slowed as she drifted off to sleep against Megan's side. Hunter's thumb traced gentle circles on Megan's shoulder. Outside, the world continued its chaotic spin, filled with cruelty and unexpected kindness. But inside this house, wrapped in blankets and love and the warm glow of the TV, three people who'd found each other against all odds were simply, beautifully, perfectly home. And in 3 weeks they'd make it official. But really, they'd been a family from the moment Hunter raised his hands and signed, "It's wonderful to meet you." Everything else was just paperwork. If the story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please don't let it end here. Let it remind you that kindness still matters, compassion still changes lives, and hope is never wasted. Subscribe and be part of our Soul Lift Stories family, where every story lifts the spirit and reminds us that light always finds its way back. And if this moment moved you, share it. Because sometimes, sharing hope is the kindest thing we can do.